was part of that oracle tradition. As a 12 years old boy, I became a shishya for my guru. The deity that descended into my guru was Raja Muneshwaran, a very regal Shiva form of deities. I learned a lot of the padatis, the pujas, everything. Went for all these exorcisms, these kind of things and that. I was made an oracle when I was 19.
Do you remember any of your intense experiences as an oracle?
There was this lady who was referred to us by a psychologist. She was really possessed. And when we were in that ritual, 5 grown men could not control her.
What?
She was so strong, middle-aged lady. That pupil in her eye, when that thing came into her, turned a tinge of purple. It was one of the most scariest experiences I've ever had. It's such a great Shakti, such a great power. And it's also something that basically all Hindus need, because Hindus these days are very soft. They don't have that Ugra strength and power that they should have. They've been too domesticated by very pop culture Advaita. Everything is the same, this and that is no difference, and all kinds of beautiful sounding lines that have no effect on the real world. Bhairava is a great protective power that in the Satya Yuga, he gave the world the Vedas. Through the Vedic rituals, man might progress spiritually and materially as well. After the end of Satya Yuga, Lord Shiva says that men no longer had the tapas Shakti to actually follow the Vedic injunctions. So he gave the world the Dharma Shastras. And then at the end of that age, the Silver Age, men no longer had the discipline either to follow the Dharmic injunctions. So he gave the world the Puranas.
नमस्ते, जय हिंद। मेरा नाम है जयेश गंगन और ये है द अवारा मुसाफिर शो, एक ऐसा पॉडकास्ट जहां हम बात करते हैं भारत के पास्ट, प्रेजेंट और फ्यूचर की। आज का ये पॉडकास्ट बहुत ज्यादा खास है। इस पे जो मेरे गेस्ट है उनका नाम है गुरुजी श्री कुमार। इस पॉडकास्ट में हम बात कर रहे हैं तंत्र के बारे में और कुछ ऐसी चीजों के बारे में जिसके बारे में आज तक किसी ने पॉडकास्ट पे बात नहीं की है, स्पेशली तंत्र को लेकर। इस पॉडकास्ट पे हम बात कर रहे हैं महागणपति के बारे में, हम बात कर रहे हैं करुपन स्वामी के बारे में, हम बात कर रहे हैं श्री कुमार जी के तंत्र साधना के बारे में। ये पॉडकास्ट आपको बहुत ज्यादा पसंद आएगा अगर आपको तंत्र में रुचि है। गुरुजी श्री कुमार ने ये किताब भी लिखी है, इसका लिंक आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएगा। ये पॉडकास्ट से आपको बहुत ज्यादा नॉलेज मिलने वाला है तंत्र के बारे में। सो विदाउट एनी फर्दर अडू, लेट्स बिगिन इन 3, 2, 1। नमस्ते आचार्य श्री कुमार जी, वेलकम ऑन द पॉडकास्ट।
श्री महागणपति नमः करपल्तुने।
So I have genuinely no idea how to start this podcast because we spoke about a lot of things behind the cameras. Right now we were talking about your experiences, a lot of things about my dreams which I was telling you, and there are so many insights and a lot of your experiences that I want to bring out in this podcast because I feel these are very real experiences which a lot of people ignore even now in India. I really want to start off with a very basic thing, which I spoke to you about behind the cameras as well when we were just talking. Why do you think there is a rise in the energies of Tantra, the Tantra aspect of Hinduism? It is coming out more now. Of course, social media could be a reason behind that, but I feel it's much more than that. It just cannot be social media or the number of views it is getting. There has to be some reason. So what do you think is that reason?
Well, the Tantric texts themselves mention this very well, where Lord Shiva says that in the Satya Yuga, he gave the world the Vedas.
Right.
And through the Vedic rituals, men might progress spiritually and materially as well. And then after the end of Satya Yuga, Lord Shiva says that men no longer had the tapas Shakti to actually follow the Vedic injunctions. So he gave the world the Dharma Shastras. By discipline, following the rules, what to do, what not to do, men may progress spiritually. And then at the end of that age, the Silver Age, men no longer had the discipline either to follow the Dharmic injunctions. So he gave the world the Puranas. There were 2 lakh Puranas. Now we have probably like 18. We lost most of them. So men through Bhakti and Sharanagati may achieve their objectives because there are various Puranas. Like for Ganapati, there's Ganesha Purana, Mutkala Purana. For Devi, you have Kalika Puran, Devi Bhagavatam. And for Shiva, you have Shiva Mahapurana, Skanda Purana. So whichever form of deity that you resonate with, through following the vratas, the pujas, you will get your results. And then Shiva finally says, it is now the Kali Yuga. Men no longer have the tapas for the Vedic injunctions, no longer have the discipline for the Dharma Shastras. nor that pure unadulterated bhakti and sharanagati that is required for the Puranic pujas. So he gave the world the tantras. So by the way of tantra, you can get both moksha and bhoga, both your material needs met and your spiritual needs met. So
Right.
that was how tantra came about.
And I feel it makes a lot of sense in the world that we are living in today, because even for me, I wouldn't go to a temple unless and until I know that I'll get something in return. And maybe it's a good way to entice people by telling them, Achha, if you do this, you'll get this, but then the spiritual path will also open up for you. That's a good way to bring them in the spiritual realms. And then if they find it meaningful, they can continue. But is it just the India phenomena, or is the rise of Tantra happening all across the globe? Because you live in Singapore. I want to know that perspective as well. How do people over there look at Tantra? Is there a rise in the energies of Tantra there as well?
Okay, now Tantra Sadhana has been rising for the last couple of years. Now, originally in the Western world, when they said Tantra, it had a whole other meaning. They brought about that sexual aspect
Right.
and all that, which was not the real meaning of Tantra, or very, very minute aspect of Tantra. Tantra Sadhana, yes, it started going even in Singapore. So now, when we say Singapore, the first migrants in Singapore were, when they came there, they brought all their grama devatas there.
Right.
Right? They brought soil from their grama, and then they established their shrines and things like that. So the background was very rootedness to their identity. And then as the subsequent generations came in, then Tantra came in, because
Right.
they already had that rootedness, that belief, right? A lot of people in India didn't have that. Like when I first came to India, I was quite surprised to see that
Okay.
the people who migrated out in order to keep that kind of rootedness, they establish certain things that are not there in even the local populace.
Right.
But yeah, Tantra has been growing, the proper Tantric methods, because Tantra is results oriented, right? And there's a proper krama to it, there's a proper tiered system to it, which is easy for people to follow rather than the randomness of just doing things out of context.
Correct.
So yeah, Tantra is a very good system.
Okay. And it is easier to follow that system.
It's easier to follow, like relatively, let's say, in a specific krama. Let's say Shri Vidhya, you have a specific krama. You start out with a specific form of Ganapati, then you go to a specific form of Devi, then you do some Shiva sadhana before you do the main deity's sadhana. So there's steps, and your guru will guide you, right, to see whether you're getting actually any results from that other tiers before they move you up. So it's a very guided process if done properly and guided properly. Whereas if let's say you just say Hanuman Swami is your Ishta Devata, you can do things for him, you can do Chalisa and things like that. But it's quite random,
Right.
You don't know how to evaluate results. You don't know how to evaluate whether he's responding to you, or is it just you mentally, it's a hallucination or something like that. There's no feedback. Right? While in Tantra, if you're guided properly, there's feedback. Your guru will tell you when it's a real result. Your guru will tell you if it's you're just hallucinating, you stop it and just continue. Right? So there's someone down there to back you.
Okay. And do you think the energy of Bhairava is that also rising?
That is definitely rising. Bhairava is such a great Shakti, such a great power. And it's also something that basically all Hindus need, because Hindus these days are very soft. They don't have that the kind of that ugra, that strength and power that they should have. They've been too domesticated by very pop culture Advaita. Right, like everything is the same, this and that is no difference, and all kinds of beautiful sounding lines that have no effect on the real world, right? So Bhairava is a great protective power. So definitely his energy is rising, and there will be a reason for that, especially when it comes to Bharat and its needs to have protection both spiritually and outside of the spiritual realms.
Right. I feel if we talk about in general Hinduism, there's a renaissance of Hinduism that is happening. As in, since many years, the real layers of Hinduism, they were buried somewhere because our minds were colonized. There were a lot of political reasons also for that. But now that we are seeing a rise in the energies of a lot of deities, we are seeing a rise in the energy of Tantra in general. I can clearly see that Hinduism is also on a rise in a very different manner, which has not happened probably since last 1000 years, maybe. Because even the opening of the Ram Mandir, like that whole issue and the energy of Shri Ram coming into our lives now, it opened up avenues for other deities to trust us as well, which is my personal belief. I don't know how true it is, but because Ram Lalla could come back and he could establish his energies again in Ayodhya, I feel a lot of other deities are also starting to trust us again. And which is why I see a rise in Tantra, I see a rise in the energy of Bhairava, which is much more necessary for the larger good of Hinduism.
So let's just say when a king comes, he doesn't come alone. No?
True.
He comes with his bodyguards, he comes with his warriors, he comes with all of that. That entire entourage comes together with him. So yeah, Ram Lalla was very, very important milestone for us Hindus. By the way, it was also the same time where I consecrated my Ishta Devata's temple, who is a Shetra Palaka also.
Right.
So when we were talking about how things changed, firstly, people started realizing that a commoner could also do sadhana. It is not in the domains of only sannyasis or people who have left society. So when a lot of sadhakas came to social media, people realize, like for example, I have shishas, I do boxing, I go for jiu-jitsu, right? I also do my sadhana. I have a personal life outside of this. So then they realize they don't have to be just one or the other. And also, a lot of parents, they always have this fear, or if my son or my daughter does sadhana, they become a sannyasi and all that, right? This entire fear goes away when you realize in the part of like Tantra and all this, it's not a renunciate path, right? It's you dealing with your real world issues,
right?
And then also building your spirituality. Now, one of the issues I would say is, with all due respect to all the great Mata Gurus and all that, a lot of them, when they went to the West, they preached only moksha, the direct moksha path. And then, because we always follow whatever the West follows, we always have that tendency for us. And everything that came out publicly was that direct moksha path, which is not, it doesn't have anything to do with the 99% of Hindus. Because if you read all the Shastras, Hindus follow Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. It's a gradual path where everything is equal. But they only preach that moksha path, which doesn't apply to us unless you are lying to yourself and you somehow feel that your desires are sins, like certain other religions, and it's a sin to have this and all that. And then you go into a lot of psychological issues because of that. But now when people realize that, no, I can have my desires, I can have my spiritual goals, I can have my physical goals, and all of these can be equally brought up. Right. And then it hits the commoner. And also, let's say if you're a teenager or a young person and all you see are old men in robes doing sadhana, it isn't cool to you, right? And then when you see normal people, let's say this person is kind of cool, they have a sense of humor, they're not that kind of strict, that kind of guru must be the shishya sitting on the floor. And then they realize, okay, right? It caters to the current society.
So in that way, Tantra has made a lot of things accessible for a normal person. But you spoke about Kshetrapalas in between. I really want to get to know from you what are or who are Kshetrapalas.
Okay, this is a tiered answer. We have the general meaning and we have the sadhaka meaning.
Okay.
So when we say Kshetrapala, the general meaning is the protector of the Kshetra. So we have Kashi, we have Kal Bhairav, who is the Kotwal. Obviously, Kal Bhairav is much more than that. But at sheast in that aspect of Kshetrapalaka, he's also there.
Yeah, for Kashi.
For Kashi. We have in Jejuri, Kandoba is there.
Right. In Maharashtra.
In Maharashtra. In Madurai, we have Padanettam Padi Karupan, or the Karupan of the 18 steps. So every region has a Kshetrapalaka or Kshetrapala who protects the energy of that Kshetra. Now that is a very simplistic level of understanding. So in every Kshetra, the Kshetrapalaka is the one who determines how much punya you bring back
Okay.
from that Kshetra, right?
Can you explain this?
Let's
little
say
more?
you go to basically you go to a Kshetra to gain punya. Kshetras, there's only two ways. You either go to Kshetras that give you punya or who remove your papa,
Okay.
right? So how much blessings that you get from a Kshetra, it dependent upon the Kshetrapalaka.
Okay. So you took three names, right? One was Kal Bhairav in Kashi, Jejuri in Maharashtra, Karupan in Madurai. And you now said that how much punya you can take out from that Kshetra depends on the Kshetra Palakas. Can you explain in terms of these three deities? Let's say if I go to Kashi, will my punyas be more than, let's say, when I'm in Maharashtra?
So, okay, for example, in Kashi, right, there's a format. Skanda Puran mentions the format. So basically, in any Kshetra, two deities are important. Ganapati and the Kshetrapalaka, whoever the
Right.
Kshetrapalaka is. Ganapati gives you access to the Shakti of the Kshetra. Without his permission, you do not get access. That's why you have a lot of people who go on like these 5 Kshetras in 5 days kind of tourist trips. At the end of the day, they have nothing. They come back to the same old problems they have always had.
Right.
There's no change in their lives and all that because they don't have Ganesha's permission nor the Shetra Palakas approval. So usually when you go to a Kshetra, you have to first see Ganapati to gain permission to access that energy. And then you see the main deity. And then when you're leaving with whatever punya, benefits, blessings, the Shetra Palaka decides. That's why you also have to see the Shetra Palaka. He will decide if you are worthy of those benefits. So in Kashi, that is Dundiraj Ganapati and Kal Bhairav. Now let's say in Maharashtra, when you do the Ashtavinayak Yatra, you have to go meet Kandoba in Jejuri. Right? If not, your Yatra is not complete. And I've had that thing before when I first went to Ashtavinayak Yatra. I tried to do it very, very quickly within 2 days.
Okay.
And then because I had a flight to catch. And then the people told me that, no, you have to go to Jejuri. I said, no, I don't have time. Let's go. And the car we were traveling stopped just at the bottom of Jejuri.
Okay.
I had to wait 2-3 hours until a replacement car came. And then from there, I had to go. And I couldn't climb. I just from below, I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. The next time I come on a Yatra, I will definitely come up. And then I ended up missing that flight and having to take another flight anyway. So the Kshetrapalaka determines that amount of punya. And in Madurai, you have Madurai Meenakshi Temple. You have Alagara Koil, which is one of the Divya Kshetras for Vishnu Bhaktas. There is Karupan down there. He also determines that. So that is one aspect of the Kshetrapalaka or Kshetrapala. He determines how much punya you get to take back.
Okay.
Secondly, there's another meaning of Kshetrapalaka because Palakan in Tamil also means child or son.
Okay.
So he is the son of the soil or the spirit
Got
of the
it.
soil.
Oh, yeah. It makes more sense now.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So he is and a lot of times, even the grand temples you see in certain places, the Kshetrapalaka has been there even longer than these bigger temples. So he's been there. He's basically the soul of that place. Right? So when people want to access that Kshetra of a great deity, you can't do that without showing your respects to the soul of that place. And once the soul starts losing its significance, the Kshetra becomes weaker.
Okay.
And Kshetra becomes weaker, things happen, invasions, the Kshetra starts losing its power. And there are also times where rival factions in history, different kings will do prayogas to weaken the Kshetrapalaka of that space before they attack that country.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a lot of stories of that happening.
Right. So, in this same context, tell me about Kashmir. Who is the Kshetrapalaka of Kashmir?
So Kashmir had a very strong Naga worship.
Okay.
They had very, very strong Naga worship, and a lot of the tribals used to worship the Nagas until the point where Kashmiri Shaivism took place. But even among the Kashmiri Shaivite people, they worship Kal Bhairav a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, Bhairava Bhairava was one of the main deities that they worshipped.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, tell me, because I asked you about Kashmir, is there Kashmir is a place where I feel spirituality is rooted over there because of all the years and years of Kashmiri Shaivism, the sadhanas that have been happening over there, as you said, the Naga sadhana as well. But also, Kashmir is a place which faced a lot of invasions. What is the reason behind that?
So see, these kind of reasons cannot be just said so simply,
Right.
right? We can all deduce and make educated guesses on this,
Hmm.
right? But to see it as a black and white is not very easy.
Hmm.
Like people say, no, back in the day, everything was just beautiful and it was pure. Like sometimes Hindus, even though they are Hindus on the outside, they are very Abrahamic in the inside. They think like Garden of Eden kind of mindset. But it was never like that. Even if you during the times of Rama, if you read the Ramayana, you see Ravana is like the Asuras are killing rishis, throwing body parts into the yajna of the rishis and all that. So even that was happening all the time. So I was just telling my shishas yesterday when we were meeting, I was like, crap happens all the time. Crap used to happen. Crap will happen. But when we are coming to, let's say, Kashmir, yeah, there was invasions and everything. One aspect is when spirituality moved too far off from reality into more of the, intellectual aspects, philosophical aspects, and they're not rooted in reality, and they go past reality, and then they start making, they start taking like you're supposed to do this puja. No, we should do it in this other way, right? They start exchanging,
Yeah.
right? And
My
then,
way or your way.
yeah,
That debate.
and then they stop doing the things that were protecting them all the time, and then that place gets weakened, right? So they're just living in the clouds, but not applicable to reality.
When we talk about Shetra Palakas, even I want to know in depth, like when you talk about Shetra Palakas, is there any kind of sadhana as well that you need to do?
So I spoke about the general Shetra Palaka for physical spaces. Now for sadhana, there's also another meaning for Kshetrapalaka or Kshetrapala.
Okay.
Right? So when we go into the realms of mantra, tantra, sadhana, the aim of mantra sadhana by repeated repetitions of the mantra is to get the chaitanya of the mantra devata in your hridaya. And your hridaya becomes the Garbhagraha. So when your hridaya chakra becomes the Garbhagraha, your body becomes the Kshetra. Right? So when your body becomes the Kshetra Palaka is the force or Shakti that protects this body. Right? Because we do so many things in life that our mantra Shakti just goes out. Like if proper mantra sadhana, you're not supposed to eat food from outside. You are not supposed to say certain negative words.
Right.
Everything, you lose mantra Shakti. And Kshetrapalaka in this context is the one who protects that Shakti from seeping out and losing whatever you have garnered, right? And for example, I always say this example where when you have no money, none of your relatives are interested. When you start having money, suddenly all your relatives want a share of your money, right?
Right.
So when you're not doing any sadhana, nothing cares about you. Once Shakti starts developing within you, right? This attracts the attention of other beings as well. Okay. So it's like, wow, now this fella has Shakti and you do not know how to protect yourself. So to make sure they do not drain your Shakti, that's where you do Kshetrapalaka sadhanas or protector sadhanas to make sure you're protected. Okay. And then you progress in your mantra sadhana.
When you say other beings, what does that mean exactly?
Other beings, there are so many beings in Hinduism. There's Raakshasas, there's Yakshas, there's Gandharvas, there's Bhutaganas.
They still exist?
They still exist. They all exist. If Devatas exist, they also should exist.
Okay. So basically, when the Shakti starts developing inside you, all of these other beings, they'll try to take away that Shakti from you.
Yeah, they will try to take Shakti from you.
And that is why it is important that you also do sadhana of the Kshetrapala so that he or she can protect you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, example, in Ganapati traditions, we have Nakna Bhairava, who is the Atma Mitra of Ganesha. So if you,
Atma Mitra as in?
is his close friend.
Okay.
It's like there's no him without Ganapati.
Okay.
So in Ganapati Sadhana, which is my main primary sadhana, you're supposed to apply orange sindur. So in Ganapati traditions, it says that as long as a Ganapati sadhaka applies orange sindur, Nagna Bhairava always protects him.
Okay.
And even when Yamadharma Raja wants to take his soul, he has to seek the permission of Nagna Bhairava.
Oh, okay.
In certain Devi sadhanas, you have example, when people do sadhana of Ma Chandi, Chandika Parameshwari, you have to do sadhana of Batuka Bhairav as well. Because Batuka Bhairav is strongly linked to Ma Chandi. He is considered like a son to Ma Chandi.
Right.
And when you do Chandi sadhana, she herself has certain beings who are associated with her, the yoginis. So the yoginis are quite wild.
Okay.
And you do Bhataka sadhana to keep them in check.
Okay.
So that they do not go out of control. So in this way, there's always a kind of deity that you have to worship, either through the Tantra sadhana, if you are doing a proper tiered way, or if there is a Shetra Palaka that your guru tells you who's associated with your sampradaya, who's associated with your guru, that you have much more quicker access to, then you will worship them. Or let's say in your region, like where we are in Maharashtra, we have Kandoba. So they respond much more quickly.
Okay. Okay. What is the most intense sadhana that you have done till date?
Most of my intense sadhanas I cannot be sharing publicly.
Okay.
But every sadhana is just intense, but it's just in a different way.
Can you explain that?
So, for example, let's say Ganapati sadhana. Most people who have not done sadhana of Ganapati give all kinds of philosophical reasons about Ganapati. What does the red, the Vahana mean? They say, oh, it's actually the mind. Ganapati steals the mind. Anybody who has done Ganapati sadhana for years will know Ganapati doesn't steal the mind at all. That is not his domain. The red is basically a solution finder.
Okay.
So, back in the day where we used to keep all our crops in a certain room, and no matter how much you lock everything, the rat will always find a way. No matter how much you trap a rat, it will always find a way. Ganapati always finds a solution for you.
Okay.
He's the Vignakarta, Vignaharta, So that rat symbolizes finding a way out that is outside of your purview, because our vision is limited. So there's always a way to find a solution for your issue. But when a rat finds a solution, it causes some damage as well. So it's never a clean solution where there's no pain for you. There'll be some pain for you, but when you look back some years later, you realize he saved you so many years.
Right.
So Ganapati is the kind of deity who finds solutions for you, unorthodox solution for what you are seeking, but it will cause some pain. Right. So that is his sadhana will always have that. Now, example in a sadhana of Batuka Bhairava. So at least in the tradition of Sampradaya that I was taught, there are so many traditions and Sampradayas, everybody have their own teachings. So this is just the way I was taught. They say that when you do his sadhana, Siddhi of his sadhana gives you a level of control over negative beings, because he controls negative beings. So when you do his Purasharana, there will be obstacles in finishing the Purasharana because they do not want you to have control over them. So there will be certain issues that they will cause.
Right.
So that you must be willing to take that. So every deity has got a certain way that they go about things, and certain pain will be caused when you're doing their sadhana.
Okay. So has there been a time where, as you said, the negative beings, they tried to affect you in any manner?
Since I come from oracle tradition and I have very strong connection with my Ishta Devata, not really. Okay. But I've had people who have been affected by these things.
In what manner they were affected?
Bad dreams. Okay. They will find themselves in the smashan, and then something will happen, and certain personal issues will crop out. while you're doing that sadhana.
Right.
Yeah, these kind of things.
Okay. So, have you ever, like, even now, when you travel anywhere, do you feel the energies of these negative beings?
So usually for sadhakas, when we travel, we always have a mala for protection that we do for certain deities within our system to protect ourselves. So even if you can feel certain beings, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Like before the podcast, I was telling you when we went to Tarapit, there's a Maha Smashan down there. So there are all kinds of energies down there. But if you have good faith and good sadhana, you shouldn't really worry about these
Okay.
things.
But if someone is not doing the sadhana, then these beings can probably attack them easier.
Yeah, so like example, I always say if you are going to go to a Kshetra, especially a Shakti Peeth, not like a Vaishnava temples
Yeah.
and all that. I mean, they are very powerful Vaishnava temples as well. But certain Shakti Peeths have a certain kind of energy where all kinds of people and all kinds of beings are also there. So before just going down there as a tourist and trying to access them, at least do some form of sadhana.
Okay.
Like 40 days, do their stotra part, do some Shetra Palaka stotras for 40 days, earn the way to that Kshetra rather than being a tourist.
Right.
Because if you see back in the day when people used to go to Kashi and all that, they will make sure all their affairs are in order. Like okay, because there's no telling if they'll come back. But nowadays we can just book a flight ticket and then we can go there. But just because it is easier these days doesn't mean the access, the true access is any easier.
Yeah. Okay. So, what kind of siddhis do you get when you do all of these sadhanas?
See, siddhis is a very interesting concept. When we say siddhis, it's not just all kinds of rainbow-like magical abilities and things like that. Superpowers. That's overblown these days. See, this is accomplishments. Your ability to accomplish certain things. Certain things will be solved for you. For example, I do sadhana of Vallabha Ganapati. That's what I teach my shishas. I initiate them in. Vallabha Ganapati has a Devi seated on his lap who is Siddha Lakshmi. Right? So that doesn't mean by doing his sadhana, he gives you magical abilities. It gives you accomplishments. Because we as human beings, everyday normal people like me and you, Grihastas, we have certain things we have to accomplish. We have like 10 goals, we'll accomplish like 2 of them. Half of them are just like 50%, they are still pending.
Right.
So when we say Siddha Lakshmi, who gives siddhis, she makes sure you complete your task. You achieve these goals that you have set for yourself. That's what we mean by siddhis, right? So when we say specifically in Vallabha Ganapati Sadhana and all that, the right kind of people will be attracted to you. It's not Vashyam, but the right kind of people. Let's say you're doing certain things, you're doing a certain business. People who are not meant to help you progress will be removed from your life.
Okay.
The right kind of people that would normally take 10 years to build that kind of network, within 1 year, you'll get that network.
Right.
Right? So I would tell people when I built a temple last January, same time as Ramlala's temple, the consecration happened. I was only doing Ganapati Sadhana, right? And then my main aim was to build the temple because it was something that my guru had told me to do. So I was one pointed on that only. I was only doing Mahaganapati Sadhana. And when I was doing his sadhana, things just came on its own.
Okay.
Right? So I write quite a bit on social media. So I have an audience on social media. And while I was writing on social media, what happened was, book publisher approached me, say, your writings are really, really good. We'd like to give you a book contract. Could you write about your Ishta, who is Karupan? And then sometime later, Kerala Nambudri, he messaged me on Facebook. It's like, we have a secret yantra of your Ishta that we don't share. And if you know anything about Kerala Nambudris, they charge lakhs to do these yantras and all that. But Karupan wants you to have it.
Oh, they said this to
They
you.
said, and it's not like the machine-made yantras. The one that they physically do. He paid money for me to receive it in Singapore.
Wow.
I was like, okay, all these things that were promised in the sadhana are coming through, right? And then like, but I still have to build a temple. These are still external things. Then like, okay, I shall find some land. Slowly, bit by bit, I will save and I'll build a place in 10 years. So I talked to some people in India, and like one of them suddenly approached me like, Anna, Karupan is my Kula Devata. Why are you looking for land? I will give you land. I will donate land. You build a temple there. And I'm like, okay, the land just came like that. So I was like thinking, okay, but now we have to build a temple. This costs 30 lakhs and more and all that. So I wrote to my readers and all that. I was like, I'm going to build this temple. Whoever wants to help, please help and support. The entire temple was built by people supporting it.
Okay.
Including the consecration.
Wow.
And 99% of people who donated were non-Tamils who have not heard of Karuppan before I started writing about him.
Okay.
And then we built a temple. I thanked all of them. And I said, so people who come to me for Ganapati Sadhana and all that, I tell them, what happened to me is the direct result of what he can give you.
Right.
So even recently, I had this close shishya, quite funny. He was telling me that, Shriji, I'm doing the sadhana, but I'm not getting any benefits. My son seems to be getting all the benefits. He's getting state first. He's getting top SAT scores. I'm looking for that, the next, a long due promotion. He's a doctor. Long due promotion. I'm not getting it at all. I was like, Ganapati knows better, right? Don't think so short term. He knows better. Just keep doing your sadhana. Then a few weeks back, he messaged me, and he's in Dallas. He's a Maharashtrian only.
Okay.
So he's like, Shriji, you're really, really correct. I was just looking so short term, and I didn't know Mahaganapati could give so much more. And the company I worked for 4 years ago gave me stock options. Now they are going public, and they are buying back all the. And I've never seen so much money before in my life in my bank, and I'm now financially secure. Like basically, it's financially secure right now. And I was building this home in Mumbai. Now I just paid fully. I just settled everything, and the future of my son is secure. I was thinking so short term, but he gave this thing. And that's why I said, when Tantra Sadhana, when you get real world results, your faith gets deeper.
Right.
And
it
then
gets concretized.
Yeah. And then you realize, these things are possible if you do your sadhana. Sometimes in a way you didn't expect, because you are looking at only a very limited view. And then after some point of time, you yourself stop asking things from the Devata.
Right.
Like they know more. They know how to give. I will just do my sadhana and just dedicate all of that to the Devata.
Right. But don't you think, the downside of this could be that people would start doing sadhanas only for materialistic things? Of course, as they do their sadhana and they get deeper into it, they might understand the larger reasons of doing sadhana and everything. But the starting point would be this, that they want something. They know that this might be a shortcut to that point. So they'll start doing the sadhana.
So, Swami Vivekananda said this very famous line, you can't preach spirituality to an empty stomach. Right? So there's this, I don't know where this concept comes from, where anything material is bad. Right? Anything material is Prakriti, that is part of Devi, that is Maha Shakti only.
Right.
So how can any of that be bad? There's nothing bad in desires.
Yeah.
It's only in the healthy channeling of these desires where it comes about. Right? And even if you first approach these great devatas with certain physical desires and real world things, they will eventually transmute these desires to something much more healthier.
Yeah.
So in Western occult, they call it the great work. And they say alchemy, turning lead into gold. It's not just physical lead into gold.
Right.
Your own self into that. So when you go into sadhana, you might start off somewhere. Right? But the deities never say you can't ask them all of these things. Right? I have a friend who is a Hanuman sadhaka.
Yeah.
Great Hanuman Bhakta. He always will tell me, Hanuman has said in certain texts that for everything else, come to me. Only for moksha, go to my Lord, Sri Ram. Everything else you want, I will fulfill this.
Yeah.
You want moksha, then go to my Lord Sri Ram. So they never said no to any of this.
Yeah. Okay. It is, I mean, over the years, we have built that inclination that we cannot ask God for anything. That is our beliefs.
Yeah.
But
So
in reality, we can.
yeah. So you see, we were talking before this where I told you there's this famous Puranic story
Hmm.
where this boy was playing with a mount of dirt or ash outside his home, and he made into this form of a man. And he went to his father and asked his father to give life to this form. The father, being all powerful, gave life to this form. It became a asura that later on tried to kill his father.
Hmm.
And the boy was Ganapati. The father was Shiva. That asura was either Bandasura or Bhasmasura. I forget the actual name. And that mount of ash was basically Kamdev that Lord Shiva had burnt. The philosophical reason behind this story is Shiva denied his senses,
Hmm.
right? Denied his desire. And that came in a mutated form, in a gross form that almost ended him. So why they say that in Tantra is because we are not meant to deny our senses.
Hmm.
We are meant to have healthy avenues for them.
Right.
Whenever you deny your senses, I mean, everybody knows from church fathers to certain Hindu sannyasis to all of them, there are so many examples of them getting into all these sexual
Hmm.
kind of scandals and, very grotesque way,
Right.
like, taking advantage of children and all that.
Hmm.
Rather than if they had just married and they had a healthy avenue, this would not have
Right.
probably happened. When they pushed something that is a natural desire down, it mutated in a very asuric way that ended them basically.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody wants to start Mahaganpati Sadhana, how can they do that?
No, I teach people in Mahaganapati Sadhana, so they can always approach me if they are qualified for it, because I do see if their mental
Hmm.
stability is there and they are already doing any other sadhana. Because I have shishas who are Isha practitioners,
Hmm.
Kriya Yoga practitioners, Bhairava sadhakas. So whenever they already have a sort of grounding in sadhana, it's always easier to teach
Okay.
rather than coming blank.
So if someone comes blank,
Then
can they still do it?
they can still do it. I have certain things that they have to do, certain vratas like Sankashti Chaturthi Vrata
Hmm.
for a couple of cycles for Ganapati before I decide.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no restrictions for that.
So tell me, like, what is the blueprint of doing a Mahaganpati Sadhana? Like, let's take an example that a person who is doing no sadhana, he comes up to you and says that I want to start doing Mahaganpati Sadhana. How will you initiate that person? Are there like any basic steps that he'll need to do? Like you said, he or she might need to do some vrats. So what are these steps?
So basically, they have to start doing his Nama Japa. Nama Japa, there's no rules and regulations, there's no initiation.
Okay.
So like Shri Mahaganapati Ye Namaha. So I'll tell them to do that for certain number, depending on how they are. And to do pujas, especially on the Chadurthis.
Okay.
So especially Sankashti Chaturthi, which is the Krishna Paksha waning moon cycle for Ganapati. Because there's Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha, right? So that waning moon is meant more for removing of Papa.
Right.
The waxing moon is for Punya. So the Papa clearing aspect is needed for them to get a proper grounding in the sadhana.
Right.
So after some time, then I'll initiate them in the sadhana. I'll guide them. So it's a very handheld process. It's not I initiate you and then that's it.
Yeah.
Right. So I make them do it for 40 days under guidance. And then I teach them the other angas. Because if I don't do that, within 40 days, half of them will drop out.
Okay.
Because it's just human tendency. Then slowly I'll build them up to do their first Anushtana, which is a shorter, sustained practice. Certain number of malas for a mandala, like 44 days. Then after that, I will teach them the Kavacha. Later on, it's a Purasharana, which is like a longer sustained 1 lakh japa, 10,000 homa ahutis, doing Brahmana Bhojanam, all these other angas. So it's a very handheld process. And then with each Purasharana, the rules get stricter and stricter. So if I tell you at the beginning, you have to wake up at 4 to 6 to do the sadhana, that you have to wear this thing, you have to, you will fall out. But progressively, you can get there.
Okay. Because a lot of people, they don't have patience. Like, so this is the thing with me. I don't have that much patience, to do a sadhana for a long period of time. So how do you build that patience inside you?
That's why I said you start small. No, habit is not something you can you can just start off from nowhere, because you will burn out.
True.
Burnout is very, for all of us. People work long hours, right? By the time you come back home after a long day, who's going to do sadhana?
Right. Exactly.
Right? So it's built gradually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long does this sadhana take? I mean, is there a specific number of days or years that it takes?
Sadhana is for life.
Okay.
Sadhana is for life, but each progressive year, things change and certain things are added, certain things are removed.
Right.
Right. And then when it comes to a point of time where basically in the tantras they say this is the upper lip is the male, the lower lip is the female. The constant recitation of the japa is like procreation between male and female, creating the mantra shakti, the devata, in the garbhagraha.
Right.
Right. So that's how Tantra mentions it.
That is beautiful. Yeah.
So the aim of sadhana is not for you to be like a shishya for decades and then serve the guru and all that. It's to build that chaitanya or the devata within you after some years, and then the devata will start guiding you.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about the temple that you built. This is a temple for Karupan.
Karupan.
Tell me about Karupan. Who is Karupan? We were talking off the camera and you told me that it is a swaroop of Bhairava, an intense swaroop. So tell me about the details.
So Karupan is a Shetra Palaka. So they call him in South India, they call him Karupan, Karupaswami, Sangili Karupan. Sangili means chain.
Okay.
So his ornament is, his weapon is chains, iron chains that he uses to catch negative beings, right? So a lot of these Shetra Palakas are also Grama Devatas. So when we want to talk about him, we have to see what are Grama Devatas as compared to the Mula Devatas. So when you have like Devi, Mahadevi, Lord Shiva, Vishnu, they are Bhairava, they are the great gods. What happened was, as the rishis and the siddhas went across the length and breadth of Bharat, they met villagers who are doing, they work in the fields 12 hours a day. They are doing so much of manual work. They don't have time to sit down 2 hours and do sadhana and all that. Right? And their needs are not spiritual upliftment or enlightenment. Their needs are very, let's say, crops should grow well.
Yeah.
There should be rain, removal of diseases, vamshavritti. That means their children will have children.
Yeah.
Right?
Basic necessities of
life.
Yeah.
They are not like very grand and anything. So they needed simple things that they can do. So the rishis and the siddhas, they pleaded to Devi. So Devi was the first to come down as a Grama Devata. So she who is Mahadevi, she who is Parvati, came down as Mariamma in the south. In other places, they call her Shitala Devi. She who gives rain, she removes sickness.
Right.
It's the same goddess.
So I am a Marwadi, and in our tradition, we during summers we pray to Shitala Devi.
Yeah. In South, she's very popular. She's the most popular.
Okay. I never knew this.
Yeah, so it's the same deity. There are some places they call her Shitala Mariamman also.
Oh.
Yeah, so Devi came down in that smaller form to give rain and get rid of sicknesses.
Right.
And there's no great pujas and all that. Once you do my puja, you give a bali that the villagers do, I will give you what you want. So when Ma herself comes down, the other deities have no choice. They also have to come down. So Shiva came down as like a guiding force, a protector, but a more of a guide who will advise people. So he came down as Munishwaran, who is a deity, who is also like a protective deity, but he guides, like a guru who guides. So he'll tell you this is right, this is wrong, and things like that. And Bhairava came down as Karupan. And the form of Bhairava as Karupan is basically Karupan. In his right hand, he holds this sickle, khadga. And in his left hand, he holds gada. So that is his normal form of Karupan. So he is considered very, very fast acting, quick, responsive deity, where you do not have to do so much things. You just have to, for immediate danger, but sudden danger, you are facing something, and then you call. So that his name itself is not, you don't need like great mantras.
Right.
You just have to Karuppa. You call that with faith, and then he comes there to help
Okay,
you.
it is that fast.
He is that fast. So I've had so many friends who had that experience before. So
Can you share some of the
yeah,
experiences?
so I will try to not give too much details because it's some of private stories.
Yeah.
So like I had one friend who is basically a SP in a state in India. So once he was his puja space burnt down. So even though he's a very brave individual, and he's a great sadhaka of another deity, he had 2 daughters. So no matter how brave you are, when you have children, you have that kind of fear. And then he messaged me, "Bye, this thing happened. I'm a little bit afraid." So I told him, "Call Karuppa. He will be there." He's like, "How do I call Karuppa?" I say, "Just call him by his name. He will be there. I will assure you, he will be there." 5 minutes later, he messages me, "Bye, I'm getting shurut smell outside the entrance of my house. So why is he standing? Why is he not coming into my house? Is there anything wrong? Why?" I was like, "You called him to protect. Obviously, he's going to stand at the entrance. No, he's not there to come into your house and drink coffee or tea, right?"
Yeah.
So that fast he appeared, because that siga is something that is always offered to him.
Cigar.
So, siga,
Oh.
shurut, that country siga.
Right.
So it's always offered to him in the villages.
Okay.
It's his favorite, basically, item to give him. And then I had this same thing where I was meeting a shishya in Hyderabad, and then she invited me to meet her family at that point of time. So she introduced me to her father and to her brother and everything. They had a factory of their own. So I was like leaving after seeing them. So she was taking my blessings from me. I had this one packet of vibhuti, that ash that they gave,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes when I'm traveling back to Singapore, I always have issues in immigration. Then I was like, if I bring this vibhuti back, I'm going to be questioned by immigration. So I saw her brother was wearing a lot of vibhuti at that point of time. So he was standing behind me when I was blessing her, saying Karupan's name. And then I gave it to him and said, "I think you need this more than me." And then I just gave it to him. And then at that night, he messaged me. He said, "Gee, when you were blessing my sister, I was standing behind you. So I didn't really know much about you. I just said, you're my sister's guru. Okay. Not much impression. But when you were blessing and when I was behind you, I could feel something. I could feel that Shakti." And then I brought that vibhuti back home, and I entered my house. Outside my house entrance, the smell of siga was there. And my wife could also smell it. So, and then later he asked, "Gee, can I get initiated?" And I initiated him at Kumbhabhishekam only.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very fast. That kind of response, you'll feel it. With certain devatas, they are so high up that plane that to get a response from them is very difficult.
Right.
For him, it's that quick. So, for example, a lot of people don't know that sometimes they say Grama Devatas, they are small, no? They are not very powerful and all that. So, if you know about Shabarimala, Sabarimala Yatra is one of the biggest yatras in India.
Right.
Crores of people go there during the December, January time. So, Sabarimala, the deity is Sasta. Colloquially, he's known as Ayyappa.
Yeah.
But he's actually Dharma Sasta. So, Sasta is the son of Shiva and Vishnu.
Okay.
Shiva in the form of Bhikshatana Murti, who is more handsome than a Koti Manmatas, and Vishnu in the form of Mohini, who is also one of the most beautiful forms of
Vishnu. Right.
Right. So basically, the story goes that after Mahishasura was killed by Durga, Chandi, his sister took a boon from the god, saying that she should only be killed by a Shakti that is combined by both Shiva and Vishnu, which was not there at that point of time. So in that play, Sasta / Ayyappa came about.
Right.
So he was given to this king, Pandya king. And for some reason or another, he will be sent to the forest. So at that point of time where he was sent to the forest, Shiva sees all of this. And then in anger, he will hit his thigh like this. In that Krodha, that Ugra, this form of Bhairava will appear before him,
Right.
called Karupan. He will say, my son is going off to battle. He's all alone. Support him and join the war against that Mahishi. Because Mahishi has this thing where whenever she pulls the hair on her body and she throws, right, all of them become one other Asura.
Right.
So he will come there and then he will protect and fight and be a very important part of the war. So after when Ayyappa wins, he will be like, you become the captain of my forces. So when people actually take that very hard vrata to go to Shabrimala, when they leave the house, right, they'll break a coconut. When they break a coconut, because the man of the house goes for this yatra, the house is all alone. When they break a coconut, before leaving, the watch of Karpan to protect the family members starts.
Okay.
And he stays there until they come back from the yatra and they break another coconut, then his watch ends.
Okay.
And in a year, crores of bhaktas go. So at one point, he's protecting the houses of crores of bhaktas at the same time.
Right.
Not really a small Grama Devata, right?
Yeah.
So we have that. And back then, when people go through that route of Shabrimala, no, the jungles were very wild back then.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elephants, there's a lot of tigers. So when they are going, they will encounter all of these things. There are a lot of stories when they encounter these things, then like a tiger will come towards them and then they just start saying Ayyappa, they start saying Karuppa, and then the tiger will just start like moving back. So there's a lot of stories of how Karupan protects the Ayyappa Bhaktas. So it's very popular form, very aggressive form, and quick responding form.
Right.
It's not for moksha, it's for immediate protection. So the immediately when you say his name or you light a diya, you light a cigar for him, you can experience him and then like, okay, I have backup. Whatever it is, I will handle it.
Have you ever seen him in front of you?
Seen him, I was an oracle for him. I think I told you before.
Yeah.
So I was an oracle for him for over 12 years. So when you say oracle, basically like what they showed in Kantara, the deity descends in the body. I was part of that oracle tradition. As a 12 years old boy, I became a shishya for my guru in that oracle tradition. I served as shishya. My guru's, the deity that descended into my guru was Raja Munishwaran, a very regal Shiva form of deity. So I served my guru and the devata. I learned a lot of the padatis, the pujas, everything. Went for all these exorcisms, these kind of things and that. Slowly, and I was young, when you're 12 to 19, more than worship and bhakti, it's more hero worship, You see a guru, you want to become like your guru and things like that. And later on, usually in an oracle system, there's one main oracle and there's a secondary oracle. Because sometimes the main oracle can also fall sick and all that. So there's a secondary oracle. And then I was made an oracle when I was 19. So I was thinking I'm going to become that oracle of Raja Munishwaran, but he gave me this fierce kind of deity that I didn't really like at that point of time. Like, why I didn't want this guy. He looks too fierce and too, antisocial kind of. But then later on, the guru always knows better than you. And that's how I got to have my connection with Karuppan, Sangili Karuppan.
So when you were an oracle, what did you feel? I mean, I'm just trying to bring out that part of your life, because when someone sees Kantara, when they see the tradition of Bhuta Kola or let's say Tayyam, there is something which is very, for a lack of a better word, very wild. Something that a normal human being cannot fathom inside their minds, that what is exactly happening. Because I remember watching Kantara for the first time in the theaters and I genuinely had no clue of what this tradition is. And when I saw that, I saw how real it was. I could see the intensity. And I clearly remember my first reaction to it was tears from my eyes. I still don't know why it happened, but it was just the intensity. So what exactly happens inside an oracle's body when the deity comes there?
So we were speaking earlier, is Tantra coming to the forefront, is Bhairava coming to the forefront. The same way is all these protector deities coming to the forefront as well. Because that movie changed a lot of people's perception of these things.
Yeah.
Right. And that movie was so well made. The actor who did that movie consulted with the actual practitioners.
Right.
He took really strong vrata.
Yeah. In fact, because I had no clue about this tradition, so when I saw the film, I actually believed that this is real. Like, and I remember I texted a lot of my friends that you need to watch this film, and they asked me why. And I just told them that God is performing in front of you in that film. And I truly believe that without the blessings of these deities, that movie couldn't have been made.
Yeah, when I watched that movie, that last part during the climax where the Shetra Palaka, as we always talk about Shetra Palaka, the Gulika Devata, who is very similar to Karpan, when they show how he was descending, I was in the cinema.
Yeah.
I took out my shoes one side and I put my bare feet, because I could see that there was something surreal happening. It was not just purely acting. Something was transmitting from that medium or that platform. So when we're talking about oracle systems, they predate organized religion, right? So a lot of people do not know that these oracle traditions are in almost every pagan culture that you can talk about or think about. We have, for example, in the Greek culture, we had that oracles of Delphi. Even in the movies, they showed a very stylized version, not a really accurate version of the deities. If you read the original text by the Greeks and all that, the oracles of Delphi were the voice of the god Apollo. So people from all across, even outside of Greece, they came up just to consult these oracles. Alexander the Great also consulted these oracles of Delphi, and that famous where that movie 300, where King Leonidas goes to consult them.
Yeah.
So what happens is Apollo, through the oracle, says that either a king from the bloodline of Heracles or Hercules must sacrifice himself. That basically the Spartans believed they descended from Hercules or Heracles, or all of Greece will be gone. So he makes that decision from what the oracle told him, that he has to sacrifice himself. And that was what galvanized all of Greece to fight back. So he consulted that oracle. Now, when we go to the Chinese tradition, we have lots of oracles. So there is this deity called Jiape. So this Jiape is always clad in black, like how people who go to Ayappa Vratas clad in black. He also wears chains, metal chains as his weapon. He smokes a cigar.
Very similar to Karupan.
Very similar to Karupan. And he's also, they call him a ghost catcher.
Okay.
In the Chinese traditions, they have the 7th lunar month where the gates of hell opens up. So all these like we have like the Amavasya Pitrus come,
Yeah.
They have that 1 month where the gates of hell open up. And then later some of them don't want to go back. So they will send him to catch these overstayers and bring them back to Naraka Loka.
Okay.
So we have that. And in the African traditions, we have deities like Papa Legba. He also smokes the cigar, takes that alcohol. He's the guardian of the liminal spaces from this world and the next. Right. So we have all these traditions everywhere. And when we are talking about even Naga Devatas, in Himachal Pradesh, you have this. In Kashmir, we had this worship as well. So before man got the ability to make murtis and all these art and things like that, the deities originally descended into special people to advise the community and to tell them what to do. And that's how this came about. It was like a evolution of worship.
Right. Do you remember any of your intense experiences as an oracle?
Because when you become an oracle, right, when the deity descends, eventually you do not remember.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes like a blank. But I can tell you, when I was a Shishya of my Guru. So when I was a Shishya for my Guru, there was this lady who was referred to us by a psychologist, saying that this is beyond my ability. Something is really wrong with this lady.
Okay.
And then please, check. And there was some possession case involved. She was a lady in her late 40s, 50s. So there was something wrong with her. So I was still quite young. I was in the army back then, and we had a couple of shishyas down there. she was really possessed. And when we were in that ritual, 5 grown men could not control her.
What?
She was so strong, middle-aged lady.
Okay.
Right. And Indian lady with like arthritis and rheumatism and all kinds of things. We couldn't control her. We couldn't hold her.
Okay.
And that pupil in her eye, when that thing came into her, turned a tinge of purple.
Purple.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, because I was holding her, and then I just saw, when I turned, I saw that, no, that just made me shudder. It was one of the most scariest experiences I've ever had.
What got into her?
It is this thing called jinn,
Okay.
which is a sort of thing that people send, like enemies send, like prayogas,
Yeah.
based in Indonesia.
Okay.
So this thing happened. It was one of the most scariest experiences of my life.
So how was that jinn removed from her?
Munishwaran, Raja Munishwaran, and I tell you,
Yeah.
my guru had the deity descend, and through his powers, they removed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens with the whatever the negative being is? What happens with that?
That
being?
totally depends on the devata.
Okay.
Certain devatas just do catch and release. Certain devatas punish them and hold them for a certain point of time.
Right.
Right. It depends on the devatas. It's not so simplistic.
Okay. So, I mean, I never knew about Karupan before today, but then when you told me all of these things, I could feel the intensity again. I think it happens with a lot of deities that their power is so real that our scientific minds, they just cannot fathom what this is. And that is what has happened with me today. Also talk to me about the book which you recently wrote. This is called Sangli Karuppan.
Sangli Karuppan.
Sangli Karuppan. So what is the book about? Is it his story, Karuppan's story?
So basically, for any devata who is popular and famous, there's so many traditions that has different stories.
Yeah.
So I compile all these stories plus my knowledge of Grama Devatas. What are the difference between a Grama Devata and a Mula Devata like Shiva, Parvati? What are Shetra Palakas? How is Karuppan linked to Bhairava? How to worship them? I crafted them into a story rather than write a dry book of information that people might not read. I crafted them into a story where all of this is actually implemented inside.
Right.
So these are not just it's not a fictional story. It's based on a lot of the Sthala Puranas of different Karuppan temples all over South India. Plus my own teachings from my guru and my own experiences.
Okay.
So once you read the story, you will understand a lot about what Shetra Palakas are, what protective deities are, why we need them in this day and age.
Okay. Have you ever experienced the intense power of Bhairava?
So when you're saying intense power of Bhairava, Karuppan is a Bhairava form only.
Yeah, right.
Right. So as Oracle, of course, I've experienced him. People have also experienced it when they came to the temple consecration. Because I stopped being an oracle for almost 12 years. But in the consecration day, he descended.
Oh.
And people from all walks of life came for that. A lot of sadhakas from Kashmir, Kolkata, Bangalore, Hyderabad. A lot of people came, and all of them told me, Shriji, I probably will never have this experience in my life ever again. It was such an intense experience because when at that point of time where the consecration was going on, I was holding on to the kalash. So I have to go around the temple. The mantra shakti of the devata is inside the kalash. So when I carried it, he descended upon me. Later on, when we saw the videos and all that, the Pandita was saying that as he descended upon me, right, there was an eagle flying above me in circles, which is a very good sign when it comes to a temple consecration. When there's an eagle going around, that means the Devata Shakti is there. So it was circling around me.
Okay.
Right. So all of them were very, very, it was like a once in a lifetime experience.
So when he descended, you didn't call him. He happened to come by his will.
Yeah, I didn't call him at all. That was, it's been 12 years,
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a very interesting experience.
Where is the temple based?
It's in Pollachi, which is an hour from Coimbatore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone can visit the temple?
Yeah, anybody can visit.
Okay. I would love to visit the temple because now that you have told me all of these real stories, I just want to experience that power, that intensity. So I would love to visit it someday. Yeah.
I can bring you as well, don't worry.
Yeah. Because I don't know how to put this in the right context, but my relationship with the divine, it is not a very easygoing relationship, because as I told you before the podcast, that my happiness and my stress levels, it directly depends on the number of views that we get. So on good days I am very happy being and I feel everything is fine. On bad days I feel that there is something which is disconnected between me and whatever the divine is. Let's call it God or the universe, whatever it is. So I feel that disconnect at times, and at times I feel very connected. So that relationship is not very easygoing. So to get to know all of these things, it is something very new for me, which I should be very thankful to you for giving me all of this knowledge. So this has been a perfect podcast, I feel. There's still a lot more that I would love to know from you, but I think for that we'll have to record another podcast. So thank you so much, Acharya ji, for this particular conversation.
Thank you. Shri Mahaganapati Namah. Karpartune.
Thank you so much.